welcome to a special Care Home Management Magazine podcast. Today we are looking at moving and handling, and specifically assisted baths and related sort of shower products, and offering advice to care home providers about what's happening in that sector at the moment. My name is Steve Hemsley. I'm the publishing editor at Care Home Management, and I'm delighted to be joined by two experts today from Medico. So please, if we can welcome Operations Director Steve Smallridge and Installation Manager Dave Hyde. Thank you, gentlemen. Thank you for joining us on the podcast. First, it's always lovely for our listeners to find out a bit about the company. So maybe you can give me a very quick sort of history lesson of who Medico are and how you work with care homes. Steve?
Thank you. Yes. So Medico been in the industry for 40 years, predominantly focusing on the service and maintenance of equipment. Obviously off the back of that there are replacement equipment which comes when something's no longer economical to service, to maintain any longer. Replacement equipment is generally the best way forward. So we are vendor neutral, we're not tied to any particular manufacturer or distributor, so we want to make sure we're giving the best advice in terms of what the product's available, so the best suited product for the resident, for the care home, for their needs. Now that can vary from one home to the other. They can have different levels of care, so the product they've got at the moment might not necessarily be the best one that's available for them now if they're looking to replace. We can give them advice in terms of what new products are available on the market now which might better suit their needs.
Yes, so thanks for that. Yeah, different. I suppose for care homes, knowing what they specifically need. I mean, maybe you can explain, sort of, Steve, what those differences tend to be, what different needs are, and how common is it that a care home would maybe not have the most appropriate products in place?
As needs change, obviously residents in a care home, that their needs will generally they'll become more dependent on equipment, and they'll need a higher dependency product. So they might have initially a product, if we're talking about bathing equipment, they might start with something they can operate themselves, but as time moves on they may have limited use of their hands to be able to operate it themselves, so then that's when a carer would be delivering personal care, would be giving them a bath, and then that's when they no longer do it themselves, the carers do that for them, so it takes away that independence, but they become more dependent on the equipment.
Right. And is this an area of sort of care home products and services that has evolved quite fast? I mean, in terms of products, and in terms of installation, in terms of maintenance, how advanced is it now? Maybe a lot of care homes aren't aware of how the technology's improved or evolved. I don't know, either of you could answer that question.
Yeah, it has evolved. It's not on this kind of exponential scale. We are still using products today which, in terms of design, perhaps haven't changed over the past, or as I say, the overall design, a bath with a chair on it. They were in the market 15 years ago. You've got more smaller, unique optional upgrades now, like the options like Bluetooth music, the LED lights, the spa, the therapy options, which are generally not standard options, but they're nice optional extras now, which can really make the bathroom appealing for when you're trying to sell the rooms in your home.
Oh, that's interesting. Yes, the music and the lights. Yeah, absolutely. It takes it away from just the sort of medical side, I suppose, and this is where people are living. I mean, Dave, bringing you in there, in terms of installing these things, what tends to be the challenges for care homes who might think they cannot install maybe the latest assisted baths and maybe not go down the route of looking into having new products?
The challenge is more than anything of access. I mean, that's the biggest challenge, of physically getting the product into the room, maybe doors being wide enough to get the product in. It might be they got an existing bath that was put in 10-15 years ago, and then they've done alterations within the home that's possibly made a door opening smaller than the actual size of the bath. So that brings in how we can do it, how we can overcome issues like that.
But how do you do that? Tell me about that then. Imagine there's a care home with a door too small. And that might actually stop people from, they might see a bath at a show or online or whatever, but automatically think they cannot install it in their room. So you're saying there's a solution to that. How does that tend to work?
We got a particular example last year. We had a client Fortunately, it was a downstairs bathroom, and we physically made the decision to take the window out of the bathroom, and we actually lifted the bath in through the window of the building. Well, lifted the old one out and then lifted the new one in, just to physically get in the room. The doorway was considerably smaller because they altered it, and we found the solution, and the client had what the client needed.
But how does it work in terms of the relationship with the care homes? Do you go around and make an assessment? Do they tend to replace all their baths at one go? Or what tends to be the process and the relationship building here?
Generally, it will be driven by, related to the maintenance. Once a bath gets to a certain age, you're looking at, it's going to be harder to get spare parts for it. The spare parts are going to be more sparse, so the price is going to go up. And as you're changing more expensive parts on a bath, it becomes less economical to repair. So normally a bath you might have somewhere in the region of a 10-year lifespan, depending how often it's been used, how well it's been maintained and looked after. That will then lead on to, okay, we can continue to repair this product, we can continue to maintain it, but you may want to start thinking about putting this money towards a new product, which is going to be less to maintain. You're going to have less call outs because it's a lot newer.
What difference do you think it makes to the residents' lives having new baths, better technology? You mentioned a couple of the bells and whistles I suppose you can have if you want to really go to town on this. How important is it in terms of the residents' experience, would you say, Steve?
I think it's really important because obviously we want to be improving their lifestyle, this is their home, that they're resident there, and it's giving them the best option of equipment in the bathroom as possible. Not only is it an improvement for them, but also for the carers in the care home. Obviously, this equipment, a high-low bath will be raised up, and that functionality is not really for the residents' benefit. This is for those delivering the care. So the care staff in the homes, they're taking away the risk of any back injury because they're not bending over the bath. It's bringing it up to their level. So, and we touched on the different functionality earlier around the optional extras, the spa, the therapy. Some care homes now are looking at bathing as more as therapy rather than hygiene, using perhaps shower trolleys and shower chairs for hygiene reasons, so for a quick wash. But there's obviously therapeutic benefits from the bath, from the sensory element, from the lights and the air spa.
So Dave, in terms of installations and what the options are, I suppose when you're talking to care homes, they're maybe not always aware of the different options that are out there. I mean, what tend to be the misconceptions, I suppose, about what you can do when it comes to bathing?
I think people are very traditional still, and it's like you say, it's the limitations. They think that it's just something to wash someone, and it's not. I think lack of product knowledge, lack of knowledge of what's out there in the marketplace, and that's where we can come in and we can offer that best advice, which is really important.
Yeah, and you went to the showers as well. I would assume that's quite a small part of the market, is it? Because elderly people, don't often find it easy to shower, or is it about having the assisted benefits of the shower? How popular are the shower installations, Dave?
I think going especially towards, say, modern care homes are often a bed en suite facility. So they got that shower within their own space, within their living space basically, and it's very simple for them to go into the shower, get changed, out of bed, into the shower, and use that as the general wash, if you understand me. The bathrooms tend to be perhaps one or two across a corridor or a level of a care home. So mentally, some residents just want to go into their own what is theirs, what is privacy to them. So yeah, I think the showers are really important from that perspective.
We do see quite a move towards more showers than baths nowadays. I guess that's probably kind of somewhat in relation to resource available in the care home. There's a lot the time taken to give somebody a shower is going to be a lot quicker than to give somebody a bath. But in terms of the best experience for the resident, you probably can't compare the two. We do see some of the higher end care homes, the state of the art bathroom. They call it the spa bathroom. It's a very nice environment. You've got the lighting that you can adjust, and you've got the bath is the icon in the middle there. And that can certainly help to sell the rooms within the home, because I guess there's an emotional attachment there when you're showing the sons or daughters of whoever might be coming in as a resident, and they like the idea that their mum or dad is going to be looked after in this great space.
Yeah, that's an interesting point, that, isn't it? Because I know, if anybody buys a house or a flat, it's always the kitchen and the bathroom, isn't it? The areas that people look at. So you're saying there it's very important. It's a good idea if care homes invest in their bathrooms and that people can see what facilities are there. And along with that, I suppose you touched on it earlier, Steve, how often, I suppose, things need to be replaced. What are the signs of wear and tear?
Yes, so again, it is very much dependent on how much it's used. But signs of wear and tear are obviously increased costs, increased call-out costs, or physically by looking at the product, you can see signs of surface damage on the tub, and on the handset. You can see that there's a lot of stretch over the years. So yeah, in terms of we can still continue to maintain it often. There are products which become obsolete in terms of the parts no longer available. But that's what we would call an obsolete product. But generally, we're having conversations before they get to that stage, because for them to be without a bath, we know that's a challenge for them. So in terms of that, might be one of the reasons why they hold back making the decision, because they could be without a bath for a couple of weeks, maybe longer, if they're doing more works than just the bath. Because if we are replacing the bath, we would look and maybe suggest, okay, have you thought about doing while we take the bath out, this is an opportunity to redo the floor, and what about the rest of the bathroom? If it's just a standard bath install, we would normally do it within the course of a day.
Yeah.
Old one out, new one in. But going back to your initial question regarding signs of old age, infection control is a big thing in care homes. So the product needs to be up to a certain standard to be able to. It might still be safe from a Lola perspective and still operate, but infection control is really important. So the bath, any damage to the tub, for example, where it might have some scratches through just years of age, just years of wear, that creates an infection control risk, because you can no longer be sure that just by wiping the bath down, you've eliminated that risk.
You have a nationwide team of service engineers, don't you? Sort of like working, I suppose, with customers. I don't know how many care homes you work with, don't tell me, but how does the service team work regularly and ongoing with the care homes?
So you're right. We have a national team, and covering anything from care homes through to hospitals and acute centres and special needs schools as well. Every asset, as we call it, so a bath is an asset, will be on a service contract, and then it'll have 2 visits per year, an annual service, and then 6 months later the interim Lola inspection, where we'll test the water temperatures and we'll look for things for like infection control risks and things. That goes on to generally on an agreed contract, maybe for 1 year or 2 years, 3 years, 5 years, and maybe that goes onto our system. There's an asset number involved, and that's marked on the asset. If there's any reactive calls during the course of that contract, the team on site can say, I've got a problem with this bath, asset number 12345. What's the problem? They call us out. We'll get the engineer to go to site. We'll give him the details that we've gained. He'll go to site, have a look at the problem, identify what the problem is, replace any necessary parts. If it's maybe looking at why did we have to replace this part? Is there a training piece there? And looking at how can we kind of the long term, and it's not just a question of changing the part. It's looking at how can we prevent this happening again if it was a user error. Yeah,
and what's your top tips around self-maintenance? Obviously, making sure you don't always need to call in the service engineers, but you keep on top of it, you don't neglect it. What are your tips on what people should do there to keep things looking good and working well?
Yeah, so with baths, quite a common one is that the bath is not working, and that can be simple as it's been turned off somewhere. Now, that might be a fuse spur in the corridor, where maybe one of the residents or one of the members of staff has actually turned it off. So if you've got nothing working, the first thing to check is that you've got power coming to the bath. It could be a switch on the wall, sometimes in a bathroom, because it's a wet room environment. You can't have a switch, a standard non-IP rated switch in the bathroom, so it may be a pull cord in the corner, just like a light switch, and those can get pulled accidentally, and it's not very obvious that it's been turned off. So that's the first thing. And then just weekly or monthly checks, checking the waters, checking the general condition of the asset, and you'll soon see signs if it's been misused, where it's got damage, any obvious damage, and using it, making sure that all staff that are using the product have had the necessary training so they're using it in the parameters that it's meant for.
Yes, I was going to ask you about that actually. You beat me to it. I mean, training here, I suppose, care home carers are lots of different training, a lot of different areas. What tends to be the training process and what's available? Do you offer it yourselves to care homes when you install?
Yes, after installation, we do a specific sort of demonstration of the operation of the bath. Now that might be to someone who's in charge of training, it might be to the manager. We always recommend, get three or four carers involved. It's difficult because sometimes bathrooms are quite small and you can't fill the room out. But
yeah, exactly. Yeah.
It's a case of ensuring that people are fully aware of how to operate and function the bath, and just pointing out to them, such as Steve has just mentioned, power supplies, maybe an emergency stop button, just everything that's simple that might catch them out, which they may not think about, if you understand me. But it's just ensuring that they're 100% happy and satisfied and how to use the bath.
And one thing which Dave just mentioned, we appreciate in these environments there's sometimes agency staff, so staff can change. So it's really good to make sure at least one or two people that are on that training are kind of a team leader or train the trainer, so they can pass that on. And because not all staff might be on duty on that one day, when we happen to be there installing the bath, so they can disseminate that information through the staff. Because if they're all familiar how to use it, they are going to get less challenges, less problems in terms of it malfunctioning.
Talk about your best-selling products and what really works well in maybe small care homes, maybe larger groups, and how your own products have evolved over time. I don't know if you've got anything brand new out at the moment. What tends to be the products that are most popular?
In the care home environment, it's the type of products we see probably the most demand for is a high-low bath with a hoist incorporated on it. There are other baths which tilt. That's quite a different sensation for the residents. It doesn't suit every type of care need. So a high-low bath, so it can be used as a traditional bath. It can be used independently. So if a resident still wants some independence, they could hoist themselves in and out. So that's really good because you want to kind of promote that if they can still do that. But as their needs change, a carer can be involved, and they would then raise the bath up. And traditionally, you've got a chair, sometimes with a detachable chair. Detachable chairs is becoming more common. It suits maybe the smaller bathroom where the transfer can't be, there's not enough space in the bathroom to fulfill the transfer there. So the chair, as it swings out of the bath, it detaches onto a sub-chassis, a set of wheels, and then that can be wheeled to the resident's room. The other advantage with the detachable chair, that if needs change and then they need to be hoisted into the bath using a sling, because they can no longer support themselves sitting in a chair, the chair can just be removed from the bath and they can be hoisted in using a ceiling hoist or a mobile hoist in a sling.
Right. And when you're installing, Dave, or talking to people about installation, are there normally always maybe a few different options for care homes, or do you look at the room and think really this, and maybe the resident demographic and think, well, I think this is what you need? You're sort of leading on advice there.
You are, yeah. I mean, I think what we need is the most key for the customer. That's really key. But you just might have a situation where the style of construction of the room maybe could give you some limitation. It may only have a chipboard wooden floor, as an example. And if you've got a chipboard wooden floor and the client isn't willing to take the floor up, strengthen the floor, and etc., we'd look at a bath that didn't need to be secured down to the deck. So if you can imagine a bath with a chair on it would always have a side tip when the resident was sat on the chair at the side of the bath. So that bath would 100% always have to be fixed to the floor to prevent it tipping. But if you had the style of bath which was just a side seat onto, so you're sat inside the bath, perhaps leant back, and then the bath tips up, that doesn't need securing to the floor. So it's just, that could be one reason what the driver is. But I think you shouldn't ever take that as the reason why, because there's always ways, you know, it might involve expense, it might involve refurbishment, but you can obviously strengthen floors.
Yeah, that's good advice, isn't it? Money, obviously, you know, these care homes are, you know, under pressure. But what is your advice to get the best value for money if you're thinking about, you know, upgrading your assisted baths and showers? Is it about going one at a time? Is it maybe not going for all the added value and just to see exactly what you need? What would you advise, Steve, in terms of, you know, budgets?
Really does depend down in terms of what budget's available, but we typically see our customer groups changing baths not generally all in one go, because obviously that's quite a lot of disruption for the home. Generally it might have one in the first quarter, one in the second quarter. Our ascertain program, which looks at the condition, age and condition of assets, can help identify which products might need to be replaced sooner rather than later, and then which maybe second year, third year. So our ascertain program looks at scoring equipment based on its age, its condition, and the money that's been spent on that equipment. We can capture that data and share that with our clients to give them the data they need to make a decision as to, well, okay, we've got this much in the budget for next year, which is the bath we need to replace first. Then we can look at a bath that kind of is a day install. If we were to do kind of 3 or 4 baths at one time, you might be able to get an additional one in the day, but there's quite a lot of disruption for the home, so we want to try and keep that to a minimum as possible. So they've always got at least one bath they can use on a certain wing.
And I saw one of your blogs talking about weight testing. Is that what you were touching on there, Dave, in terms of the floor and everything, how important that is around sort of getting that right? Where does that fit into all of this?
Absolutely essential, the weight testing element, to be honest with you. It's something that's done on the initial installation. I think, off the top of my head, 160 kgs is a common capacity of a bath chair. So we'd put that equivalent load on the bath during installation inspection, lift it up, operate the bath with that capacity on it, and lower it again back out onto the floor, and that would be repeated on the annual service once a year, just to ensure that all the fixings, I mean, you can look at a fixing on a bath and yeah, that looks absolutely great, that looks fine, but perhaps when you put the load on it, it could pull out, you know, anything could happen, to be honest with you. So really key, that weight inspection.
And so just maybe to go back to something you were saying earlier around the sort of therapeutical benefits of bathing, there's lots of areas, aren't there, where it can probably help. The rise in dementia, for example, people like that sort of therapy can help in many different ways. What would you say there about the benefits?
Yeah, so the benefits, obviously some of the products, which is why you have the optional extras, something like the LED lighting, for example. It's a softer lighting, you know, for dementia. Sharp lighting is not something which helps that condition. So some of the products out there do have those optional extras, which are better suited if you've got a specific dementia environment in your home. We can make sure that product is suited to the location it is in the home, because you might have a residential area where those optional extras are not necessary. So for example, on one of the products we discussed earlier, the high-low bath, you can have it's a locking function on it, so it locks down all the operational buttons on it, so that if it is in a dementia wing or dementia location where the residents may be wandering around, may have a habit to maybe kind of touch buttons and things, it's all locked off, so there's no chance of them scalding themselves and turning the hot water on, for example. So it removes that risk. Then when the carers need to use the bath, there's an unlock functionality, using the buttons on the product. They can unlock it and then they can use it. So it's in a safe environment when the carer's around for the product being used.
Is this quite a new thing, that maybe the focus more on therapy than just cleanliness? Is that quite, maybe people just are really appreciating the benefits of that in recent years?
Yeah.
Yes, I think so, and obviously with dementia clients as well, dementia residents, they're living in the past. So traditionally, when they would have kind of been growing up, a bath would have been more common to them rather than the shower. So they may feel more comfortable. They may feel less anxious having a bath, which is something they're more familiar with from their past than a shower. You know, they may never sat in a shower chair in their past. So the bath, the feeling of a bath, there's more water submersion, but there's more of the body underneath water, that's the therapeutic benefits. On a shower chair, you're not going to get any of that, obviously. So.
Right, okay, and final question for both of you really. I mean, people who listen to the podcast, I think, yeah, actually we should maybe look at, assess our bathing sort of facility. What would be what should they do now really? What is it? By just going around and sort of checking what they've got? I'll start with you first, Steve. What would be your advice? First thing you should do?
First thing is maybe look at your age and condition of your assets, and obviously there's a significant investment in a bathing product, so it does need to be planned, and we would want to make sure that you're making the right decision for the needs at that time. So if you want to call us in for a survey, we can come and have a look at what the space you've got, and then we can discuss, well, what are the options? This is the bath you've got at the moment. Have your needs stayed the same, or have they changed over time? And then how we can kind of talk through what the options are available on the market at this stage, taking our kind of experience, using our experience with knowing all the different products that are available in the market currently, and which one is the best suited for their needs. And also looking at the long-term value of the product as well, not just looking at the initial cost of the purchase of the product. Whole life costs are really important to make sure you're going to get a product which might be, the purchase price might be more attractive. You may find you're paying more to maintain the asset in the longer, if you looked at a 5 or 10 year lifespan. So, value is really important. That's why we want to make sure, because we're predominantly a service company, we want to make sure we're suggesting products which we know are reliable. We know we can get the spare parts and the backup, because when a bath's out of action, that's impacting people's lives.
Thank you. And Dave, what should care homes do today, having listened to you guys?
Think now, but also think ahead. I think that's really important for them. Don't just solve the issue for today. Think ahead, look at the whole environment, look at the whole room, think, is there any other bits we need to be having apart from the bath as well? Then there might be height adjustable sinks and height adjustable basins and things like that they should be thinking of. And just don't go blindfolded, just look ahead.
Thanks, gentlemen. That was Steve Smallridge, who's Operations Director, and Dave Hyde, Installation Manager at Medico. Thank you, gentlemen. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.